Is this going to be the last new raid tier in 10.2? Is there going to be a 10.3, a season 4? Today, I'm giving you my thoughts, predictions, and evidence towards what I think is going to be shaping up to be the rest of the expansion. Is this going to be the last new raid we see in Dragonflight? Yes, I think so. And there is some evidence to prove that. First minor point is the amount of weapon effects that we're seeing off the loot in the Amirdrassil raid. It's quite a few, actually. We're seeing a new legendary, which is not really, conducive to that point, but a lot of the purple epics are also dropping with powerful weapon effects for everyone. While every raid does have like a weapon or two with these sort of effects that drop off, of course, the sheer amount of them in this one is kind of like, okay, I think you're gearing up for this one to kind of be the big power gain, the big one for, the expansion. Point number 2 is the AOTC mount, ahead of the curve, which is a mount that you get for completing the heroic raid. And historically, they've only really done that on the last raid tier of an expansion, right? You look at the Jailer mount, you look at the N'Zoth mount for completing the heroic raid. This goes back in time for a long time. So it's kind of one of those things where you're like, yeah, okay, last raid tier of the expansion, probably gonna be it. Yep, okay, yep. That's kind of it for in-game, but we have to talk about patch cycles as well, because something is going to be occurring in November that hasn't occurred in an extremely long time. Well, extremely long time is relative towards the times we're living in. We've had, like, I don't know, 10,000 historical events since the plague, because that's the world we live in. But BlizzCon is returning. And it's not a big leap to say, hey, they're probably going to be revealing the new expansion, the next upcoming World of Warcraft expansion at this next BlizzCon, especially it being the first BlizzCon since pre-plague days. Man, it's been an absolute world we've been living in lately. So let's say, hey, in early November, they're going to be announcing a new expansion, right? It's not a leap. It's not a jump. It's kind of like, yeah. When are they going to be wanting to release this expansion? Historically, anywhere between August and November, December. Now, December didn't really work out for Dragonflight due to Christmas reasons, and that brought a whole bucket of things. So we can assume a late August, early November release, right? Which leaves very, very little time to have a last patch with a new raid, right? Obviously, because if they do the patch cadences that they do now, 6 months, we don't know when this one is releasing, but it's safe to say it's going to be November something for 10.2, right? 6 months, that comes out in July. Let's say you're aiming for a September release, an October release, a 3 to 4 month last raid tier with a new raid. I just think it incredibly unlikely, especially because you're going to be having so much of the dev team ramping up for that new expansion release with the new raid, the new zones, the new dungeons, everything that they've been working on. And it's obvious they've been working on it already, right? They've already had the next expansion started working on probably like a year ago or something. But the patch cycle just doesn't make sense, but it does make sense for a 10.3 season 4 like we've seen in Shadowlands. But this time around, it can work a little bit differently because we can get all of the Dragonflight dungeons back in one season. One of the big complaints that I've seen about Dragonflight so far from kind of everyone across the board, Twitch, YouTube, comment, everywhere, right, is that we didn't get to experience all 8 Dragonflight dungeons, the OGs, in one season. They got split up in season 1, so we had 4 in season 1, we had 4 in season 2, and in season 3, we're actually only going to see two Dragonflight dungeons, which is Dawn of the Infinite split in 2, with 6 older expansion dungeons returning. So, like, we really haven't gotten to experience the Dragonflight dungeons yet. But that makes for a perfect season 4. You can keep Dawn of the Infinites and then add the other 8 Dragonflight dungeons and make one big season 4 season where we can just go, have fun, crank out all of the dungeons, and have them all there to experience Dragonflight to its fullest. One of the things that people don't realize when they start a new expansion is you are when you're relatively at your weakest, right? The start of an expansion is incredibly hyped for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I feel loses player drop off and player retention is player power. There is a severe lack of player power in the start of a season. Start of Shadowlands was brutal. Start of BFA, from everything I heard, was absolutely terrible, with everything you lost jumping from the most powerful you've ever been to the least powerful you've ever been. So it's safe to say that at the end of an expansion, you are at the most power you've ever been. You're going to have all of your best trinkets. You're going to have all your, like, more stats than what you can possibly believe. You're going to have it all. Isn't that the best time to kind of experience all 8 Dragonflight dungeons? Well, 10, but the 8 OGs and the Mega Dungeon all at once when you're at your most powerful? Isn't that going to leave the best impression on a season, on an expansion for you? I think it would, and it would for me, because you are going, like, think of all the things that you remember about BFA and what was awesome about Battle for Azeroth, and I'm gonna bet most of them were 8.3 corruption stuff. I don't hear a lot of people talking about all the amazing ways they felt in BFA outside of 8.3 corruption. Look at Shadowlands. We were incredibly powerful at the end of Season 3, and we were incredibly powerful, broken, in Season 4. And man, when I hear people talk about the positive vibes of that expansion, because there were many to be had. I know it's easy to throw darts at the doom and gloom board of Shadowlands, but there was also a lot of positivity, a lot of positive stuff that occurred in that one. And a lot of it is in Season 4, late Season 3, Season 4. It makes sense that when we're at our most powerful, they're going to want us to enjoy all the Dragonflight has to offer in one patch. What this also means that they could reintroduce a seasonal affix, which I know some people, I've already seen some people in the forums and some people in my Twitch chat asking for a seasonal affix again, which would be a good time to return it. We all know these dungeons. We've played these dungeons over the course of the entire expansion. Refresh them up a little bit. Now, we didn't get a chance to enjoy, like, Algathar Academy or Azure Vaults or whatnot without a seasonal because we had Thundering, but, I'm okay with it. Let's go. Season 4, give me all of the best trinkets out of all 3 raids. Give me all of the best trinkets out of all of these dungeons, because there are some bangers. Give me the legendary. Give me all of this fun stuff and let me go to town. And I think ending an expansion is basic on the way that I think like this, where it's all OG Dragonflight stuff, is the best way to do it, right? Shadowlands, it ended with Streets and Tazavesh dungeons. Like, cool, but they ain't the OGs. They ain't Mist of Tirna Psyche. They ain't Sanguine Depths. And in all honesty, by the end of the season, Sanguine Depths was by far my favorite dungeon. And it's still probably one of my favorite Mythic Plus dungeons ever. I love that dungeon to death. But not being able to experience that at the very end of the expansion kind of feels a little weird. I don't know. Those are my thoughts and predictions of what's going to happen. Let me know what you think. Have yourself a good one, everyone. Happy tanking.